35-23, top-ranked South Carolina with the lead over fifth-ranked Connecticut. Now to the studio for the E-Trade halftime report with John, Rebecca, and Coach.
Beth and Deb, thank you so much. The E-Trade halftime report. South Carolina 1/2 away from picking up their first ever win over UConn. With you in the studio, the coach Andy Landers, the Hall of Famer Rebecca Lobo. I'm John Brickley. So we mentioned before UConn struggles in this first half. Second time they have trailed by double digits in the last 5 seasons, coach. And one player in particular that came to mind for South Carolina, Ty Harris, 12 points on 6 assists.
She's been absolutely terrific the first half. The senior on this young South Carolina basketball team, and the quarterback. Most of this game offensively has flowed through Ty Harris. Not only has she scored, she averages 12 a game. She scored 12 already. She averages 5 assists a game. She has 6 already in this first half. The game has gone through Ty Harris. The other thing that's been impressive, though, is South Carolina's defense. They've really thrown UConn off in terms of their offense. They have been, you heard Dawn say, they have size, they have quickness, and they use it. That is exactly what's happening. They're pressuring UConn a little further out on the floor. They have good help when there are breakdowns. They've created turnovers. UConn isn't a team that turns the ball over very much, but they forced them into doing that. And then when UConn has had looks, those looks have not come in rhythm. I'm accustomed to seeing a UConn team cut, pass, and find open shots. This is one that seems fortunate to get a good look at the basket, rush that shot, haven't been accurate in doing so.
Yeah, and when Connecticut's had some success is when they've tried to just screen on the ball, bring Boston out in particular, and hit mid-range jumpers. This is a team we're not traditionally used to seeing rely on the mid-range jumper off of a one-on-one move. Now, defensively for Connecticut, I thought early on they had a great game plan. You know, they were sagging off, really clogging the lane, especially with Aaliyah Boston, and then South Carolina made a great adjustment. So take a look here. Boston is starting on the block. Connecticut sagging. All right, we'll let Zia Cook take that three-point shot. Again, in the paint, lots of bodies for Connecticut. This is a man-to-man, but a sagging man-to-man. Kiki Herbert-Harrigan takes the long three from the right corner. So what does South Carolina do to adjust? They start pulling Aaliyah Boston away from the basket, opening things up. Yep, she's able to hit the first 3 of her career, but also, you see it here, she's battling inside, clogging the paint, making it difficult. She starts moving away from the basket. They pull her away from the basket. That creates more space for players like Ty Harris. So I really like the adjustment by Dawn Staley and her staff to get Aaliyah Boston away from the basket and a little bit more on the move than just trying to plant her inside.
And a reason why South Carolina has a 12-point lead for UConn. Megan Walker certainly has to get it going. Just 4 points in that first half. According to Charlie Cream, UConn with a victory tonight would get a #1 seed in the latest bracketology. That's because as we go to our weekend review, what happened over the weekend for Louisville. They lost on Thursday to Florida State, and then they put up a season low in points against Syracuse. And with that, Louisville with back-to-back losses for the first time since February of 2017, dropping them to the 2 line, according to Charlie Cream. What about Friday, Oregon State and Arizona State? What a finish. With .4 left on the inbound pass, Michaela Pivick with the game
Check
winner.
it out on the right. Jump up and down, girl.
However, the euphoric state would only last 48 hours because Arizona just yesterday picked up their first ever road win against the top 10 team in program history, knocking off Oregon State. Arkansas, we saw on Sunday, passing the century mark in their win over Kentucky. Alexis Tolfree, 30 points, including 5 threes in a game in which Kentucky got back their leading scorer in Ryan Howard from injury. But of course, the storyline surrounding Sabrina Ionescu on Friday picked up her 6th triple-double of the season, her 24th of her career, becoming the first Division I player to have 3 triple-doubles versus the same team in Arizona against Arizona State. Nearly had one as well, 19 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists as the Ducks got their revenge over Arizona State. And Sabrina is closing in of obtaining the unobtainable. She's got points of 2,000 or more. She needs 3 assists to get to 1,000, and closing in on 1,000 rebounds as well. Would be the first Division I player to reach all 3 3 of those marks. So a lot of great intrigue, some great excitement. Coach, I'll start with you. Your biggest takeaway over the weekend?
Well, I was impressed with Arkansas's 14 threes against Kentucky, but the biggest takeaway, Louisville, this is a team that's been looked upon as a #1 seed. They've lost 2 games in a row, and guess what? They have to go to North Carolina State on Thursday. They could drop to a 3 or 4.
My biggest takeaway was Oregon. This is a team at the beginning of the season was the favorite to win a national championship, especially after they beat the national team. And then they had a couple losses in an interesting early part of the season. They seem like they've really found their groove since they had the loss at Arizona State. They're playing really good basketball. Satu Sabally has really kicked it in. This is a team that separated themselves along with Baylor and South Carolina.
All part of your weekend rewind. Coming up, the class of 2020 for the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame will be unveiled on the other side of the break here for the E-Trade Halftime Report. 17 straight for South Carolina, and for the first time in their program's history, they pick up a win over UConn. Coach Andy Landers, the Hall of Famer Rebecca Lobo, I'm John Brickley. Coach, this is a young team, the #1 recruiting class in the country. What did we learn about this South Carolina team coming up with a victory like this against a tough non-conference opponent?
We learned tonight that Dawn Staley is happy. and if I were Dawn Staley, I would be happy too. You know, I think what we learned, I think we already knew South Carolina's good. You know, they're talented in the starting lineup. They have depth. They have size. They have all the pieces. I think what we learned tonight is that they continue to get better. They continue to improve themselves. I don't think we can say that they validated themselves because we already knew. I think they just get better and better with each and every game.
I think we learned a couple of things. I think there's a maturity that they showed tonight.
Absolutely.
In this environment, in this game that we weren't quite certain that they had. You know, some of their big games came early in the season and they've had impressive wins, but at least for me, the question was, okay, yeah, but they still rely so much on freshmen. Those freshmen were grown women tonight.
Yes.
They played really, really well. And in terms of what Dawn was saying about Ty Harris, I think in terms of the national audience, Ty Harris may have been on the periphery of the conversation for National Player of the Year, but I think when people watched her tonight, they said, yeah, she is a legit contender for National Player of the Year. She was absolutely terrific. Early on in this game, when both teams were struggling to score, she just took the ball and said, all right, young guys, settle down. I'm going to show you how it's done. And I think every team needs to have that player, the one who can take control and make everyone else comfortable.
And so impressive in that she plays within herself. She doesn't try to do more than she needs to do or something that's out of her reach. She plays within her skill set. It's excellent. She facilitates everyone on the basketball team. Totally unselfish, smart, exactly what you look for in a point guard.
And I think the other thing with South Carolina, this is a team that's dominated all season long in terms of scoring in the paint. They averaged 42 points in the paint per game. Tonight, Connecticut scored more points in the paint. Connecticut was the team that needed to hit three-point shots.
Absolutely.
South Carolina said, all right, we're not just a paint team. And they've been shooting the three ball well all season, but they showed that they can shoot it at a higher clip, and were really confident when they took those shots.
To your point on Ty Harris, we heard Dawn Staley say it afterwards with Holly. She was the reason why we won this game, responsible for 67% of the point production in the win for South Carolina. Rebounding was also a key factor in this game as well, Coach.
Well, there's no question. And when two somewhat equal teams meet, possessions become perhaps the most important thing on both coaches' minds. How do you get those possessions? You turn the other team over or you rebound the basketball. South Carolina was excellent with that tonight. They used their size, they used their quickness to get into position to rebound the ball. And then all the 50-50 balls that come off the glass, again, their quickness to chase those down, turn those into rebounds.
Especially on the offensive end of the floor, I thought not only their ability to get the offensive rebounds, but when they got them. You know, Connecticut's making a run at certain times late in the game, and they got offensive boards when they really needed to, when they made Connecticut defend the entire shot clock, and then they still go in and get a second go-round. So the timing of them, there was just a real maturity and toughness about South Carolina tonight.
The other thing that I would add to that, this is a South Carolina team that seems to enjoy playing with each other. Forget who's old, who's young, what class they're in. They've gelled. They seem to enjoy playing with each other. They complement each other. There seems to be a happiness in Columbia, South Carolina. I don't care who you are, where you are, that's not always the case.
Yeah. And a note of interest for South Carolina, 3-0 versus top 5 teams. First SEC team since Tennessee back in the 2007-2008 year when Tennessee went on to win the national championship. So that's the narrative on #1 South Carolina. For UConn, third loss by double digits in a season hasn't happened in the last 15 years. And you notice from 2015 through 2018, they dominated against top 10 teams. Not the case as of recent. 5 of the last 6 they have dropped. Coach, from your perspective, what's the biggest concern for this type of UConn team when they go in against top-quality opponents, whether it be in conference or out of conference?
So I think in these games, at times it seems like they're playing 3-on-5 or 4-on-5. For UConn to be successful in a game of this magnitude, all 5 players have to bring something to the court in that starting lineup. That hasn't always been the case. We've talked about core 4. You know, we've talked about how good certain individuals are. Individuals aren't going to win games like this. You're going to have 5 people come out, play well, and contribute together.
And part of this is who they've played. I mean,
Absolutely.
we've got Baylor and we have South Carolina and we have Oregon, who to me are the top tier now, right? They've separated themselves a little bit from everybody else.
Yep.
Well, those are the 3 teams that have, have really beaten UConn by double digits. So part of it is they've had this great non-conference schedule. And again, those 3 to me have shown a little bit more separation from UConn, what I would consider UConn and a few others in the second tier.
But to your point as well, Megan Walker, a player of note for UConn, has to step up. 10 points, 5 of 11 shooting. Kristen Williams, just 5 points on 2 of 12 shooting. It seems when the game gets to be utter importance, the stars don't shine for UConn.
Well, part of that is what the teams, their opponents have done defensively to them. You know, they've taken them out of being a rhythm team where they can move and cut and pass. They've become in these games players and a team who have to rely on their one-on-one abilities. And so who's thrived in that? Crystal Dangerfield has. Kristen Williams still needs to mature a little bit. Megan Walker, the same thing. So they're players who do well against defenses who aren't quite as strong as what they've seen against those top teams.
You know, they're victims, too, of scouting reports. The scouting at this level for these teams is just terrific. You identify who can do what, and then you force them to do something else. And at this point, you know, I don't think UConn has the ability to absorb all that. Their best players need to do what they do best each and every time out for UConn to be successful.
And what Coach Auriemma has said all season long, all of these players are asked to be in a different role this year. And he said, I don't know if they believe that they can do it yet.
Sure.
And what we've seen against South Carolina and against Oregon is that Crystal Dangerfield is the one who believes, and I don't know if the others quite do yet.
And with that loss, according to Charlie Cream, UConn now drops back to the 2 line where they were prior to Sunday's game, and then obviously coming into this game against #1 South Carolina. Maryland, one of the hottest teams in the country, they move up to the #1 line.